So I recently went to this Pro Life event. It was a barn dance and barbecue hosted by GoPack, I believe. Yeah, kind of GoPack. And I'm actually going to write a story about this for my journalism class, so I thought it would be kind of cool to go over some of the things that actually happened there. The purpose of this stream, I think, is going to be so this first half, I really want to cover this event. And then the second, I kind of want to go over some of the history around abortion for my own personal knowledge. So, specifically in the second half, I would really appreciate any feedback because there's going to be things that I miss. There's going to be things that I don't necessarily get right, or that like I just missed. So yeah, I really appreciate feedback when I'm actually discussing the history of abortion because I want to know as much as possible. Um, so, but this event. So this was a pro-life barn dance and barbecue. It was actually a pro-life event and a 9/11 memorial kind of service, and it's kind of cool. We had some speakers that are going to be running for governor in 2022 in Illinois. The two speakers that were there were this guy Darren Bailey. He was, I believe, he was a former state representative for 109, I believe, and then Gary Rabbi. I believe he's just a businessman. But I got, um, they actually gave speeches. I got footage of the speeches, but the audio is actually really bad. I don't have the best equipment, but we can still go over it, kind of make out what we can. But before we do that, though, I kind of wanted to talk about some of the things that happened there, some of the things I saw. So this is just kind of funny.
Where's Mike doing? There he is.
So they were selling Baby Lives Matter shirts. A very interesting choice. And
where's Mike doing? There he is.
Yeah, when I saw that, I had to get footage of that. Oh, and I just got rid of all of the videos. Oh my lord. Okay, so besides the Baby Lives Matter shirts, they had these posters on the wall here about I guess these are pro-life leaders, so people that helped kind of lead the charge when it comes to abortion legislation, which I found very interesting. I've never seen really anything like this. So I'm probably gonna do a follow-up and actually look these people up. I think that could be very interesting study. So obviously this was a very religious tinged event. So the motivations behind, I guess, the event were pretty clear when I was there. Like for example, and actually, as a side note, this is actually a bus that was parked in front. Obviously, good advertising on the campaign's part, but halfway through the night, actually, it was kind of sad. Someone actually passed out, and they had to call an ambulance. That was actually one of the sadder moments of the event, really. But because I don't have footage of. Oh, I do. You'll see the inside of the bar. So now let's go over some like the actual the candidates that were there. So this is Darren Bailey. He was a state representative for Illinois, and now he's running for governor against Pritzker in 2022. Again, the audio is kind of messed up here, but we'll be able to make out some of what he's saying here. It's actually Gary Rayburn right there. Those audio's really dead.
You want to stop abortion, you show up to events like this and start standing up and taking back our lives. You start protecting life. Proverbs 28:2 says that there are more wrongs in a nation's government follows easily.
So anyway, Darren's speech, he really highlighted his disapproval with Pritzker's handling of the COVID mandates. He was adamantly pro life, and that was basically it kind of goes the same with Gary. But I will say that it seemed like at the event, the more popular candidate was Darren. A lot of people supported Darren, even though Gary's the one with the huge bus up front in front. But I didn't find a lot of support for Gary, to be honest, here. But here's a little bit of Gary, if we can make it out. If we can't, I'll just skip to, I actually have audio interviews that I did with people, and they're much clearer. But let's see if we can hear what Gary's saying.
Stand up if you're a vet, you're a policeman or woman. Stand up if you're a first responder, a family of all of us. Stand up! Stand up!
So I believe right there he's asking veterans to stand up.
God bless you all, thank you. God bless you all, thank you, because of your service we enjoy this free and safe country, where we can all strive for the American dream because of you. My blessings in my life have been because I've had great people like you supporting me.
I think the audio might be too bad. But I mean, to be honest, there wasn't much difference in their style of speech. They both kind of referenced the same thing. They were very grateful for the 9/11 responders, adamantly pro-life, and disapproved of Pritzker's position on the COVID mandates. So those are the candidates. I actually got some pretty cool interviews there, because my main purpose of being here was I tried to come here from like a journalistic perspective and really get to try to understand the motivations behind the pro life movement, actually, and try to give people as best as I could. Again, this was the first thing I ever covered, so when you hear these interviews, keep in mind that there's a lot of things, I know that there's a lot of things that I can work on, and any feedback would be appreciated. But I know that for me, there was questions that I liked that I asked, there was things that I didn't like that I asked, there was moments where I interrupted, where I could have let them talk more, there was moments where I could have posed a challenging question when I didn't. So all of that being true, I did get some interesting responses. So the first interview I kind of want to listen to was, there was a couple that was sitting with me at my table. They were, I can't say their last name. It was the Wojcicki's. They had 2 children with them, and it was really cool, because when I explained to them that I was a student journalist, they were very open and willing to speak with me. So in the beginning here we hear I can't pronounce his name. Sławik Wojcicki. So we hear him, and then in the background we'll hear his wife Rebecca. But she's a little quieter. But as in the next clip I have, I actually do a one-on-one with Rebecca as well. So I mean, I guess one question I would have is, what do you think about the Texas law that was just passed?
Banning abortion?
Yeah.
What exactly? Like, is it full term or?
Yeah. Like, what are your thoughts around it? Like, would you like to see like policies like that implemented
we're unapologetically pro-life. So regardless of the circumstances, a life is a life.
So it's like those kind of policy like that, something you'd like to see in Illinois?
Yeah, certainly.
I guess another question is, what do you think like some of the motivations might be behind the pro-choice?
Pro-choice?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to pose this question. I want to know what they thought the motivations behind the pro-choice movement were. So my motivation behind asking that question was really just to kind of like try to understand their perception of the pro-choice movement. He gives a kind of an enlightening answer here.
Motivations, probably inability to accept responsibility for one's choices, or just immaturity. What do you think that some of the motivations are for the pro-choice movement?
I think a lot of people, women in particular, have been lied to. I think they've been told that basically a child is the worst possible thing that can happen to you in your life.
I'm sorry, it's really hard to hear Rebecca at this point. But at this point, I'm starting to understand that in their viewpoint, pregnancy, if it happens, is something that is the responsibility of both parties, regardless of. This was very interesting to me because I was unaware that pro-life advocates actually took a position against birth control. I kind of thought everyone was kind of pro-birth control. So at this point, I was kind of very interested into what they had to say. And again, I apologize about the bad audio with Rebecca. She's just further away, but again, she comes up closer in the next audio, and I have a one-on-one with her as well.
To be entirely right, regardless of the circumstances. Certainly not if it's not.
Honestly, I'm not even sure how good it sounds. It sounds horrible to me right now. So.
How the horrible trauma that does unfortunately sometimes happen. In my experience, there is never a perfect time to have a baby, but the baby makes it the perfect time. There's an old Italian saying that every child comes to the loaf of bread under his arm. That not that everything's going to be suddenly perfect, but things are never as bad as you think they're going to be. And
Go easy on it, man. It's the first assignment.
Oh, it's all good. I appreciate anything, honestly.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just looking for a kind of conversation, to be honest.
Yeah.
and I know.
What do you like?
This is kind of painful for me. Just listen. I can barely understand anything. I'm playing it because I'm not sure if it's actually audible.
When I found out that I was pregnant for the first time, I immediately, obviously there was a huge rush of many different emotions, but one of the strongest for me was a protectiveness, an instinctual, like, woman protectiveness. Like, I didn't even know this kid yet, and I would have given her my right kidney immediately.
We've fallen off track from his original question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the original question.
What do you think might be some of the motivations around the pro-choice?
I see. I thought she was answering the question fine. He decided to have her kind of to redirect the question back to her, but.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I apologize.
Oh, no, you're fine.
To get back to the original point, I guess, I think a lot of women have been lied to, and I think they are given incomplete information or oftentimes blatantly false information. And
Yeah, but what's their underlying motivation?
I think it's fear. I really do. I think it's an environment of fear of the unknown and of being different from what's expected of you, right? Because
Being completely honest, and I don't. My goal here isn't to kind of like do too much pushback because I really just want to tell their perspective. But I didn't really understand this point when she was saying that people that are pro-choice are afraid of the unknown because they very clearly know the potential of what's going to happen. I mean, this decision isn't a decision that's typically made lightly, and the results of a pregnancy aren't that mysterious.
You know, from the time I was a little girl, I was told, you know, you can be anything you want to be, do whatever you want to do. You know, you can be president one day if you want to. But then along the way, kind of the implicit message was, but don't have a kid too early. Don't let other people mess up your plans. And so I think there's a lot of fear and a lot of misinformation.
What are your views on contraception?
Yeah, and this is what surprised me. So I decided to ask them about contraception and birth control. It's just very surprising.
You're a hard hitter.
Personally, I think it's an offense against women. I think what it does is it says to women there is something wrong with your body, the way your body works is broken, and you need this medication from on high to fix it. You know, and we have dealt with circumstances.
The language was interesting because you said that you need this medication from up high, so she's implying that doctors are. The only thing I can really infer from a statement like that is that she's assuming that doctors are taking on kind of a godly role, like with little justification. Like that seems to be their view, is that pharmaceuticals are actually unnatural to a certain degree.
In our marriage, when it would have been extremely dangerous for us to have a child, and you know, certainly that's terrifying. But knowing that there were natural methods that we could use to postpone pregnancy was a huge consolation for me, because I've known of women who have had, you know, maybe they have to be on some kind of medication that would be very unsafe for a baby or something, you know, and they're told, oh, just go on whatever, and then it fails, and suddenly they're pregnant. And
It's sort of anti-science. Like, we've forgotten, the medical communities relying on drugs to ignore how the body actually works.
right. And the natural methods that we use, according to the studies that I've read, are at least as effective.
You want this to me?
Possibly
You want
more
that?
effective. Excuse me, the little one's running away. Matcha.
Basically,
So again, I mean, I'm gonna continue it, but I'm very sorry about the audio. This is actually the worst audio recording I have of an interview. The other ones were much better because it was actually outside. But yeah, I wish we could have gone outside. But
just trying to say what I'm about to say. We've forgotten how the body works because it's inconvenient.
so yeah, they're taking basically the position that contraceptives and birth control are actually anti-science, which threw me for a loop. Really, I didn't plan on doing much pushback here, but I would need to know how to push back against that, like in real time. I was very thrown.
No, you're good.
So anyway, the natural methods that we have learned, researched, as far as I'm aware, are at least as effective as most of the methods of birth control available now, and have no side effects. You know, there's no risk of blood clots, heart attacks, stroke.
And that's another interesting thing is like their position came from like she was very worried about the potential side effects of the contraception that we have right now, which is a fair point to raise. Like there are side effects. It's just very surprising that because of those side effects, she thinks that she's anti. She takes the position that we should not be using birth control methods at all. You know, I just never
I was
heard
doing
of.
research beforehand on birth control, and there's a lot of stuff.
Right. It's scary when you read the insert. You know.
Yeah, it's like it's a long pathway.
Yeah, it's really long.
So would you be opposed to like things like would you be opposed to like things like condoms and stuff? Or is it
Yes.
just, okay, so all forms of
Yes, all forms of artificial contraception.
Because I even asked about condoms. I was like in this. I was like, really, all forms? And then I asked about condoms, and to them, yeah, like that's also a form of unnatural. So it became clear that when they mean birth control, they mean controlling your urge to have sex. Like their when their perception of responsibility when it comes to having children is if you don't want the risk of having a child, don't have sex. So again, very hard to argue against. I mean, it's sound. There are no side effects. Sure. I mean, you can responsible adults can handle parenting in like that manner. Like, it's fine. But then to go take it one step further and to be against it wholeheartedly for anybody else, I was just very surprised.
Okay, so by natural, you mean like kind of like herbal stuff?
Sorry?
By like by natural, you mean like herbal stuff?
So there's actually a method of natural birth control called naprotechnology.
Yeah,
And
naprotechnology. I'm
there
gonna
are
look that up.
many different methods, but essentially what they revolve around is learning the woman's cycle, learning learning the signs of fertility, and learning to chart that and learning to determine when the woman is fertile and when she's not.
Okay, so this kind of ties into what you're saying about getting this better.
I'm so sorry about the audio again.
Exactly. So when we had to postpone
I'm
having
gonna have
another
to
baby,
get much better equipment. I know
I
that.
knew that my husband wasn't looking at me like a piece of meat.
Free to walk around.
You know,
Can
I
you
knew
sit off to the
that
side over here?
when we had to say, you know, let's watch TV tonight, or you know, you go for a run this way, I'll go for a run that way. You know, we'll put the kids to bed early next week. You know, that to me made me feel so much more valued, loved, and respected because I knew that he was putting our family's needs first. And I also had the peace of knowing that we were working together. You know.
Her kids ran off at that point. Honestly, in like that position that she's articulating right now, isn't like it's a responsible position to take. I mean, yeah, if you and your partner are able to communicate that well, to where you recognize the risk for pregnancy and the way that you choose to avoid it is to abstain, like at certain moments. I think that's a very responsible way to go about it. I think their position on birth control in general is not necessarily one that I would take, but I think that their approach towards having children isn't irrational or anything. She at the end there, I thought it was very kind of endearing, I guess, that to her what was very important was, or to her what she really liked about like this kind of way of going about it was that it created a deeper connection between her and her husband, as far as like teamwork goes, and it probably did. I would imagine it helps your communication. I would imagine it's a very interesting approach, but again, like I said, to extend that, as responsible as that might be, to extend that as like an obligation for everyone else, or even further than an obligation, kind of like prescribe that type of behavior for everyone else, I think might be a little too far. I would say this is the end of that interview. This is when Rebecca actually comes up closer, and I'm able to have a one-on-one. It's much clearer. I think this is. Oh wait, this one's only 40. It's not that long. This is the very ending of the conversation. I think it's just the last question.
What would you say to someone who's like who's like on the edge, like a woman that's on the edge, kind of contemplating it? What advice would you give her?
I would advise her to not be motivated from fear.
Nope.
There are people, some of whom I know personally, who are willing to help you, who are not just interested in getting your baby to birth, who are committed to helping you as a person. And there are many more resources than there may seem at first. There is hope, and you do not have to make what you believe to be a terrible choice either way.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so actually, side note about this couple. how do you say his name? How do I say his name? The husband, Slawick. He gave me a pamphlet. I'll show it on stream. He gave me a pamphlet of an actual technology that he's working on. I guess it connects to Bluetooth and it helps keep track of. I think your cycle. To be honest, it was very kind of over my head. I think that it's a way to monitor your fertility cycles. That's the way he was kind of like describing it. Connects to your iPhone. So I mean, they were very heavily invested in this movement, and again, I think their position on actually having children and like pregnancy itself is not that crazy. I think it's very responsible, but I think that their confidence, I guess, in prescribing that to society as a whole and saying that this is something that should be followed is a little short-sighted, especially given all the examples that we have of pregnancies happening because of circumstances that are outside of the woman's control. So like all of these things need to be taken in consideration when making a statement like, we should not have birth control. Like we would be, so yeah. But I do think that potentially some couples could take something from their approach to parenting in general. So the next interview I have was with a woman who's outside. All the other ones are outside. There's only 3 more people. They're all outside, so it's much clearer. Her name was Catherine. I'm not, at this point, I was, like when I was asking the questions, I admit here that I could have done a much better job of actually, I guess, follow-ups. But regardless.
The first question I would have is like, what's your opinions about the new Texas law that was just passed? Is that something you'd like to see kind of implemented here?
The Texas law, can you fill me in on that?
Yeah, so that was just passed. Basically, if you were to get an abortion after 6 weeks,
so she was actually very intelligent. Her daughter is studying law, and I believe she said it very quickly. So this is neither confirmed. This is not confirmed, basically. But I believe she actually studied law also, and I mean her intelligence became very apparent. So.
Civilians can sue you, so it's like private citizens can actually sue anyone that abets the abortion. So
basically, if you're asking for 6 weeks in, that means somebody who is already pregnant, basically you have up until 6 weeks to terminate the pregnancy,
yeah.
Right? Okay, so here's my take on that, okay? Because I've gone through 2 pregnancies that were difficult, the moment of conception, it's a seed, and it's a life.
Right.
So at 6 weeks old of gestation,
right.
That's murder.
Yeah.
Because of the heartbeat. The heartbeat is the first thing that develops.
I think that's actually what the bill's called, heartbeat.
Yeah.
I guess what do you think some of the motivations behind the pro-choice movement might be?
Now here, I believe look, I didn't realize this until I actually listened to it again. I think she misunderstood the question. She actually answers what some of the motivations behind the pro-life movement are, which is a fine. That's actually an interesting question also. But I didn't realize that she was talking about pro-life until I kind of listened back.
Why we're here tonight?
Yeah, like what do you think? Like they're, I guess.
So because it's education, I think so. Here's the thing. I grew up in a very Christian home, but the thing is, if you are going to lay down with somebody, pregnancy is a risk. So you have to be smart about it. If you don't want to get pregnant, there's birth control. I believe that you should conceive when you're married.
Gotcha. That was actually my next question. Is what are your views on contraception?
So, with this generation, I'm kind of touch on go on that, you know, because the thing is, for example, my daughter's 17.
Mm-hmm.
Teenagers explore. Okay, so
How to get around that?
if if a teenager is going to go that route, you need some sort of contraception. And that's not even a guarantee either.
Sure.
So my point is, you should be married.
Yep.
And the father should be responsible also.
Right. Yeah.
So.
We're gonna be doing a hair right in a couple minutes.
She actually had to leave here.
Daughter now and see if she wants to. She's been eating live ice.
Unfortunately, I wanted to ask her a lot more questions.
Okay, we can end there. What's your name?
Catherine.
Catherine. Oh. Are you from around here?
Yes.
Okay.
So I thought her position on birth control to me was a little more reasonable. She was also adamantly pro-life, and I guess you can tell in that interview a lot of her motivations could potentially be kind of tied to her religion, which seems to be the case a lot of the times when it comes to this issue specifically. But I liked her stance on birth control. So this next guy, very interesting actually. So his name is, hold on, I have to set him up properly. Where is it? This is, so his name is Orville H. Bretman. He was actually, I had a picture of him. I might just need to look it up. So yeah, Orville, and I'll let him speak for himself. He is the GOP chairman of the Grafton Township, I believe. Very interesting guy. So I go outside, and I see this guy sitting with a top hat, a cigar, and a cane. And my first thought is I need to interview this guy. And then as the conversation unfolds, he introduces himself, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I guess, in your opinion, what might be some motivations behind the pro-choice movement?
So the second answer is this question. I kind of understand that I'm dealing with someone who's been in politics for a while. So.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry. In your opinion, what might be some motivations behind the pro-choice movement?
Motivations for what? To do what?
Just behind the pro-choice movement, I guess, in general.
See there, I should have answered when he said to do what. I should have said something along the lines of to allow women the choice to get an abortion, or that's how I should have responded to that, instead of just allowing it to be as open-ended as
they raise, I guess. I realize it's kind of an open-ended question, but
yeah, and I'm not motivations behind the pro-choice movement. I think there may be as many motivations as there are people involved in the movement, which is quite common in all movements. Not everybody gets in for a strictly doctrinaire, single-minded approach.
Yeah. I think that's a very good answer. I guess another question would be, what are your views, I guess, when it comes to contraception and birth control?
Well, I have nothing against contraception. There's been contraception since day one, going back hundreds of years, or thousands of years. It was used in Egypt, it was used in Mesopotamia. It's been used since the dawn of man. It's just got to be medically more efficient.
Right. Let's see. This isn't my first time. This is the first thing I've ever.
Yeah, this is when I started to get flustered because I realized that he's just a pro-lifer. His views on contraception were reasonable. At this point, I'm struggling to figure out exactly where I want to take this conversation, because I just don't really know where to go, to be honest. I was kind of nervous initially the way he answered the first question. I was like, okay.
I guess.
And I'm just being honest, because this is something that I'm trying to get better at, and the only way to get better at something is to do. So, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. So this is a process for me, but.
I didn't ask. Who are you?
My name is Orville Bretman, and I am the chairman of the Republican Party in Grafton Township.
Okay. And
the former mayor of Carpentersville, Illinois.
So he was the former mayor of Carpentersville also.
A pleasure to meet you.
where I was elected when I was 29 years of age.
29?
Second youngest mayor ever elected in the state of Illinois.
Really?
Yes.
Could you maybe tell me a little bit about that? I mean, imagine that would be...
Well, it was started out as a protest movement, actually.
Really?
The sewer and water rates were raised overnight by as much as 300%. And the village went up in arms. And I made the mistake, if you will, of being a vocal opponent. And the next thing I know, I find myself nominated for village president.
Excuse me, you were doing the hay rides, right?
Yes.
Yeah?
My daughter's going to use the restroom.
He was also running the hay rides. And at this point, I kind of realized that this interview was specifically isn't really necessarily going to be about abortion. It's more like about. I was trying at this point. I wanted to suss out Orville's just political kind of views, because he was very popular.
Yes?
He's doing the hay rides
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. Are you still doing them?
We are still doing them in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Grab some people to come with.
So, what was the experience like actually holding office, I guess?
At 29 years of age, it was a rude awakening. I've been in politics my whole life now, in and out. I worked for the federal government for 20 years when I couldn't actually engage in politics because there's something known as the Hatch Act.
Hatch Act.
The Hatch Act. It prohibits federal employees from engaging in partisan politics.
Interesting. Okay, I was unaware of this.
In my view, it's unconstitutional.
Seems like it, honestly.
See, the reason why I said it seems like it
Nonetheless,
there
it's what your
is
job
this
was.
was the Hatch Act he's talking about, and I didn't do the research about this act before. But mentally, I was just thinking potentially maybe if I don't know, a post office worker wanted to run for office, and he couldn't, then that seems like it might be unconstitutional. I don't know the full extent of this Hatch Act, so that isn't. I wouldn't say that it is unconstitutional. I would say that I need to do more research on it. But for the sake of this conversation, I said that it seems like it might be.
Right. So at this point, you're the chairman of.
Chairman of the Republican Party in Grafton Township.
And how long have you been the chairman?
Oh, a little over a year now.
Really? Do you enjoy the work?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take kids on hay rides.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a particular candidate in mind?
You know, at this point in time, I'm trying to get to know them all, and there's quite a few, depending on which office you're talking about. Take governor, for instance. Two of the contenders showed up here tonight. We're very grateful for that. There are several others. A new one just jumped in the race yesterday, I think.
Oh,
or the
really?
day before. Some guy who may or may not really live in California that wants to be governor of Illinois.
Interesting.
He's got an Illinois address, but he's got a California company where he spends all his time. Politics is a strange beast.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I had another question. It just slipped my mind.
I think I asked him.
I'm
what
sorry.
some of the problems might be with the Democratic Party. I think, hopefully.
I completely spaced. I had a.
I know the local or regional environment that you
Oh, okay, yeah. So actually,
get to know. The
I think I was
local
thinking about Glenn. So the next interview I do is where I actually try to. I'm just asking about his experience here. I think I asked him here what advice he might have for up and coming people that are trying to get into politics. I think.
Yeah.
My advice would be to
I guess what advice would you give to anyone looking to get into politics?
Because to be honest, and this might be a problem on my part. I wasn't trying to offend him too much because me not knowing a lot about him to begin with, and the fact that he's the chair of the Republican Party in Grafton, I didn't want to burn any bridges here. So I didn't want to like ask too like crazy leading questions about his ideology, which I mean potentially I should have, but that's something that I feel like I'd be more comfortable doing when I get better at this in general. So
The politics?
Yeah, yeah.
My advice would be to take your time, don't jump in with both feet, get to know the local or regional environment that you want to operate or run in. When you say politics, there's really two kinds of politics. There's the kind where you actually run for office, and there's the kind where you build a structure, a party structure, so that others can run and that the philosophy of the party can be properly represented by finding and vetting good candidates. Having been on the one side, now I'm working on the other.
Oh, gotcha. Do you prefer one side or the other? Or?
Yeah, I prefer doing what I'm doing now.
And I guess the last question would be, what are some of like the big issues you think facing the
okay,
state?
so I do ask.
In the United States right now?
Or I guess you could do the United States and Illinois specifically.
Well, in Illinois, it's the fact that we're going deeper and deeper and deeper in debt. They altered the Constitution so that all of our previously either elected officials or school teachers, hallway workers, all these people when they retire not only get a pension, but it goes up 3% every year. Nobody in Christendom gets that kind of increase. And it's bound into the Constitution so that it can't be repealed by the legislature. And it's killing the state. It's driving us into bankruptcy, insolvency. That's probably the largest Illinois issue. Nationally, I don't think we behave like Americans anymore.
So yeah, his biggest issue for Illinois, kind of got that. It was we have a debt problem in his perspective.
What do you mean by
Business
that?
in Afghanistan was a debacle.
Yeah.
And then as far as the federal, his views on like America as a whole, he was harshly critical of Biden, and he thinks that normal Americans generally don't really have pride in America anymore.
Yeah, true.
Biden can lie about it all he wants. Biden has some attributes, like nobody rises to that office that doesn't have some attributes.
True.
So you can't fault the man and say, he's a bum, he's no good, this, that, and the other thing, as some are prone to do. But Afghanistan was a debacle.
Yeah.
No right-thinking person would allow that to happen.
Yeah.
His military let him down, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I was really mad.
Honorable men are resigning their commissions because of it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time. Yeah, thank you so much. And my name's Kenneth, by the way.
So that was Orville, chairman of the GOP for Grafton Township, Illinois. He obviously pro-life, reasonable on birth control. Biggest problem facing America is lack of sense of pride, it seems. And then as far as Illinois is concerned, our debt is a huge problem. The thing is that, and I really did like his advice about people entering politics, is not to jump head first in, get to know your area, focus local. I think his experience in politics is something that should be taken seriously. Yeah, I appreciated having the conversation with him. He's someone that I'm going to do a follow-up interview with, and I will, be covering that, uploading it, and doing all that good stuff. I also, it's kind of cool. I got some interviews. I'm going to set up some interviews with, or potentially set up some interviews with some of the candidates running for governor in Illinois in 2022. I got really lucky at this event and was able to network pretty effectively. So the next person I have actually is Glenn. So Glenn, I love Glenn. This is Glenn Swanson. He was a former PC, precinct committeeman, I believe with Algonquin. I could be. I believe he actually tells us. Yeah, and Glenn actually was very open. So gave me a lot of I guess you could say information on where the Republican Party is in Illinois, at least from his perspective. So I appreciated the conversation with him.
Yeah. Afterwards, that'd be great.
I don't have cards.
So this is
I
Glenn's
ran out
sponsor.
of cards when I was PC.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't going to buy anymore.
Oh,
They appointed me as a.
I don't know. I think this is the first one actually.
I guess the last question I would have
Nope,
is
that's
what.
the last question.
You do the road signs?
A lot of them.
Sorry, he
You do the road
talked a
signs?
lot.
A lot of them. I did most.
All right. Well, it must be this one.
Yeah. Afterwards, that'd be great. So.
I don't have cards.
No worries.
I ran out of cards when I was PC.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't going to buy
Yeah,
anymore.
wait. I'm sorry. This is not the first one. He actually introduces himself.
You do the road signs?
A lot of them. You see these?
I might have accidentally.
I guess the last question I would have is what. You do the road signs?
A lot
Yeah.
of them.
So I see what happened. So the beginning of this interview, I accidentally deleted it when I was editing it. So I'll have to find that. Find that eventually, but we'll just have to move on. Unfortunately, but he does introduce himself.
Yeah. Afterwards, that'd be great. So.
I don't have cards.
No worries.
I ran out of cards when I was PC.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't going to buy anymore. They appointed me as a PC, by the way. But
So I guess starting off, name.
I'm Glenn
Oh.
Swanson.
Swanson.
I'm a precinct committeeman in Precinct 62. I used to be the Algonquin Township GOP chairman for Algonquin Township. And what else do you need to know?
Also a former chairman.
How long were you the chairman?
I was, I want to say it was 2 terms. 2 terms plus a half a term, I think it was. I took over after Andy Gasser became road commissioner. It was about 6 months after that. I kind of like replaced him.
Oh, see.
I made the mistake and told the people, we got to get people involved that don't live in Cary, Fox River Grove, because I mean Algonquin Township is more than just Cary, Fox River Grove.
Yeah.
It also is Lake County, Algonquin, as well as parts of Crystal Lake.
Right. I guess in your opinion, what are some like the biggest issues facing I guess your county or Illinois in general?
In Illinois,
Yeah.
the biggest problem is there's no. The Republicans
okay.
just.
Okay, I'll find you.
The Republicans just haven't. They could, they can make bills, but they were never called because the bills just were thrown away because Madigan threw them away because he didn't want to listen to them. So I mean, the biggest problem is people complain. Why should I vote? Because their vote doesn't count, and that's really what it does because they just, with them having a majority, it's hard for any politician in Illinois to get anything done.
Right.
And I'm hoping that after the fiasco that's happened this year, that it changes where they don't have the supermajority.
So yeah, it seemed like one of his biggest problems in Illinois was the majority that Democrats held. So.
What are some of like the biggest things you disagree with as far as like the Democrats are concerned?
Well, the problem is they talk unity, but all they care about is what they want. I mean, let's be realistic. Look at what Biden has said. They make promises, but when it comes down to they said, oh, we're going to get the school board to make a decision and take control.
I mean, I don't want to push back too much, but Biden did say that he wanted to get out of Afghanistan, and he did.
Basically threw it away and said, we are basically ignoring you. I mean, the point is, there's no unity. Neither side talks to each other.
Like Trump said he was going to get out.
That's the biggest problem we have. It's like people complained years ago because, I don't want to say it was one-sided, but, with different views. But now they don't even care about your views.
But that's an important
So
point.
it's the biggest problem
I feel like a lot of people on both sides feel that the other side genuinely does not take the views of like the other seriously, and I think that that's something that's felt on both sides. I feel like there's a bipartisan agreement that it's very problematic that we don't know how to take differing views, or we don't know how to take people seriously if they have differing views. I think that there's a bipartisan consensus when it comes to that. I think.
Have now is, I can understand where these people say, "Well, my vote doesn't count," and the problem is, everyone looks at the top, and look down in the elections. Believe it or not, the best thing, what I always stressed was working from the bottom. You want something done in your area, that's why you put county board members in it. That's why you put people in the schools. You want them to support you, but people don't come out to vote for those type of elections. If you look at the
stressing local,
it drops because there's no big name ticket on it. You know, unfortunately, it's like the governor of the state and the president of the state basically is at the point where they don't have any power except the veto, but all of a sudden it's changed lately where they're making basically to get their way, they're just making I'm trying to think of the term, executive decisions.
Right.
And to me, that's not right.
Yeah.
Why, if they're going to make executive decisions, why do we have a state senate and why do we have state representatives? We're paying all these people money, and you're ignoring them, leaving them out of the picture. So, I mean, that's my biggest problem today. Why do we have all these offices if they're not going to take their input?
Yeah. I guess what's your opinion about the new Texas bill, the SB 8, and
the new what?
The Texas bill that was just passed about as far as
I kind of want to have them talk about abortion a little bit.
And is that kind of some of the legislation you'd like to see in Illinois?
Well, first of all, I think everyone should have a choice.
Yeah.
Don't force anything on people.
I mean, he was pro-choice. It was kind of surprising.
Like that. But the problem with that is it should only be in certain cases. And, excuse me, if you need an abortion, don't wait till the day before the kid's born. Do it early enough so, okay, if you made a mistake, don't go through all the crap.
Yeah.
You know, there's no need to, you know, what's the status now? They have up until the day of the heartbeat of the baby, or?
Yeah, the bill in Texas, it's after 6 weeks, then anybody can sue.
I mean, I swear, it's like they have abortion that wipe out population, and you know that's what government's looking at. And I question the vaccines.
Right.
I mean, they're not telling us the truth on the vaccine. I don't know if it works.
Yeah.
Have you been vaccinated?
No.
Oh, so you know what I mean. I've heard stories that if you haven't been vaccinated, you have. In fact,
at this point, I didn't want to argue for vaccination. I just wanted to get his perspective on it. Because I mean, you go to an event like this, you're not trying to change. My goal isn't to change his mind. It's more just to get his perception of, or I guess his viewpoints out.
Health coach. I've lost about 150 pounds, and my health coach just had coronavirus. 2.5 weeks, she just felt a little crappy. That was it. If that's all we're worried about, what the hell do we need all these masks for? And the thing is, the numbers. Did they cure the flu? No one's had the flu. Everything is coronavirus, and they're not. To me, taking a temperature of someone doesn't buy it. You know, I mean, I hate to say it. I cough a lot because I got cigars. I mean, that doesn't mean I have it. I mean, my tax man, he went in there, the hospital for food poisoning, and about, I want to say 5 months beforehand, he had heart surgery. They looked at him and said, "You're not breathing good." They automatically clarified him that he had coronavirus. He didn't have it. They put him in a facility. I forget what hospital. It was one up here. I don't know if it was in Elgin or or up by his house, over by Good Shepherd. But they put him in a hospital, and it was like they had to keep him overnight because they gave him some medication for coronavirus. They should have asked, but they didn't. Look, I think he's suing them, the hospital.
Oh, really?
Well, they shouldn't have given him.
Sure.
And then they forced him to stay overnight, and it's like, you know.
I was actually really grateful that he was willing to share his views on.
You did the road signs?
A lot of them. I did most. In McHenry County, I did all of Jeannie Ives.
Glenn probably puts out more signs.
Talking about something.
I guess the last question I would have is what.
Yeah. I missed that clip. Wherever I'll have to find that. So.
Improvements do you think could be made to the GOP here in McHenry County?
To the GOP?
Yeah, just like in general. What things that you see that, you know, or like...
Oh yeah, I want to get his views on how the Republican Party could actually improve.
In the future.
Well, first of all, I like to see that we have basically all the, you know, you look at all the people on their voting rights.
Mm-hmm.
How much time do we need someone to vote in an election? Do we need all this early ballot voting? I don't think so. It used to be where you voted on a certain day. Now people don't show up. They want to vote by mail. You don't know how many times they voted. There's no IDs referred
This
to.
is my
So this is when I started. Okay, so he's making I would not be surprised if like this line of questioning kind of led to the conclusion that the election was actually rigged against Biden. That's the kind of feeling I started to get.
You can have
no,
that.
no.
Yeah,
This one right
that
here
was
with the
just-
23.
What's 23 stand for?
This is when I do an auction, but I didn't do it because it's too expensive.
Oh, if you wanted to buy something?
Right. Auction. When you do an auction.
I mean, I look at fundraising now. I mean, fundraising's nice, but the thing is, it's the same people so often. I mean, I remember having a meet and greet at my house. Then I saw.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit of this because.
Can't answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I haven't done that with.
Door to door. We're not. I mean, they have meet and greets like Facebook. Next thing you know,
Like, from my position, it's a great opportunity.
Well, Orville was telling me he got to meet Ross Perot. I mean, a good example is.
Okay, so we're just talking about the idea of candidates actually doing on the ground work instead of, I guess, large scale meet and greets, like actually doing smaller scale stuff. It's kind of boring.
Don't we? Yes?
I don't know.
You guys got-
People and be able to talk with them without the hat.
It's my good
But-
buddy. Don't we? Yes?
I don't know.
You guys got matching hats.
You still haven't brought that friend that you told me about.
I don't know. Where's Scott? We're done.
Precinct committee.
You think so?
Yeah.
Is the process challenging?
You've got to read the people.
And so now he's talking about the position of PC precinct coordinator, I believe.
Obviously, if they're a non-Trump person, you don't want to bring up anything about Trump.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to just turn you off right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely.
You always start at the bottom, never at the top.
Yeah.
And people get it wrong.
Right.
I mean, I believe you should support the party, but if there's someone you don't like, you don't have to push them.
Yeah.
You can promote whoever you want as a PC. I mean, I don't know who you like for governor.
I'm still kind of undecided. That's one of the reasons why I showed up tonight. I wanted to get a better idea of the candidates.
I mean, of the three before the other day when Thompson came in, I probably would have gone with Bailey, only because
Yeah, he's popular. People like him.
I met him at a fundraiser. I'm trying to think what it was. It was a fundraiser they had.
He supports
and I
Bailey
met him in the parking
right
lot.
now.
I got two worst candidates you could put on the ballot. You know, to me, that's what I meant. You could tell what was he in it for. I still can't figure that out. He has money.
Right.
Ronald was a rhino.
Mm.
I mean, I'll be the first one to say it.
So they voted for
They jump because they don't have the Democrats basically caucus everyone in. They just switch over and vote for whoever they don't want. Whoever has.
So we're talking about like his views on the Democratic Party, and he made it very clear that he doesn't like the way that Democrats caucus, and the way that they push their candidates through. It's an effective political strategy on the Democratic part, and it's reasonable how it'd be frustrating for Republicans. And yeah, he's articulating his I guess disdain with that.
Worst chance of
beating their candidate or
yeah. I mean, to me, it's either both parties caucus or both parties hit primary.
Yeah.
You don't do this crap about just, this is our candidate. They waited until after they know who's running against each other. I mean, Alan Skillcorn, during the primary, I was helping him on his campaign. By putting up fixing his signs, and
we're gonna get into kind of
Springfield a lot because
details about specific campaigns and stuff.
A state representative makes $67,000 and 67 and a half or something like that.
Change.
Under $68,000. Most of them, believe it or not, are part-time. Alan Skillcorn pushed, was there all the time. I mean, his opponent, not in the primary, Schofield, took all his shit back because he had to run back to Springfield. Up in Harvard, he was there for the morning session. Braids.
Yeah.
I mean, how far do you guys go?
Right.
There is no limit anymore. I mean, you have the other side plain out lying.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who was next to me, I don't want to mention his name, but you know who I was talking about.
Yeah.
He lost the race because all of a sudden someone put money and put a big scam out criticizing these guys. These guys work their ass off.
Right.
He's one of the hardest working people in the party.
Seems like it.
I didn't know if you realized that.
I like that. I like that line. I guess when I'm talking to people and I'm trying to be agreeable, I think that I'm gonna use that more. Like when I'm realizing, like, oh yeah, it seems like it. I feel like it's pretty safe because then I'm able to agree without actually making a commitment to their statement. I can be like, it seems like it. I'm gonna need. I mean, right now that's what it seems like.
So is that what you, like in your opinion, is that probably the biggest problem with the Democratic Party, just like the dishonesty?
Well, they lie. I'll put it this way. Both sides lie. It depends. Yeah. Our side stretches it. Their side blatant out lies.
So that was interesting. So both sides lie. Our side stretches it. The other side just full out lies. I'm definitely gonna quote that and use that for my write up on this event.
Yeah.
They just blatantly lie.
Don't want to waste this one, honey.
Thank you.
I think at this point, it's pretty much
what
over.
advice would you give to someone trying to get into politics?
I would say prepare yourself to get your name smeared in mud. Take it easy, Darren. Nice seeing you again, Darren. Have you met Darren?
No.
Darren.
Here, we can...
Okay. So that was Glenn. That was like the last interview I had. No, my thoughts overall about this event, I guess it became very apparent that this was kind of like a pride. A pride was a very big motif, and a sense of patriotic duty, I guess, was really hard to get away from. And patriotic duty when it comes to the reverence for the 9/11 responders, which we should have, but also a sense of duty when it comes to parental responsibilities. That was huge. Also, that was another motif. It seemed like a lot of the people there were adamantly pro-life, and a lot of them were also against birth control for religious reasons, which is something that's hard. Even what I found very interesting about the whole birth control situation is that I thought it was going to be easier to conceptually kind of be like, I mean, don't you want them to not use birth control? But the side effect argument in them saying that you can easily avoid the side effects if you take a more responsible approach to communication and relationships. Like that's what sort of surprised me is like that line of argumentation. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying anything about it, but I think it was very surprising how they justified their position against birth control. I thought it was going to be something that was super irrational. Like, there was a lot of motivations that were irrational. Like, a lot of times they would invoke the idea that a birth control is unnatural somehow. But then their follow-up would always be that a more natural approach is taking a responsible attitude towards, I guess, pregnancy itself, which is something you can't really argue against, even though I disagree with the premise that birth control is unnatural. Like, I disagree with that. I think that medicine is a natural thing. But to argue against the side effects, I think can be effective. I found that very interesting. Like I said, the overall event was colored with religion and a sense of pride in the nation. It was very, very much a communal kind of a gathering of like-minded ideas. Even though they all agreed on the pro-life position, I found interesting that the leadership kind of was more, I guess, also just to be generous, say agnostic about the idea of birth control. So there was differences in the leadership and like the general attitudes. The event itself, I feel like it was run pretty well, except for the person passing out because of the heat. There were way too many people in that barn. Definitely. The food, it was a barbecue actually, so they gave us free food. It was actually pretty good also. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm going to do a write-up for this for my journalism class. This is just kind of like a way for me to get the information kind of out there. That way I can look back at it later if something happens to any of it. And also a way to get feedback as far as interview styles go and how it should approach going to these events. Obviously, I know number one, first and foremost, I'm going to get better equipment. The equipment I had, wasn't even able to get video interviews because my phone actually ran out of storage. So I'm gonna need to get much better equipment, microphones, obviously. But what I'm more concerned with, because those are easy, what I'm more concerned with are kind of any input I can have on how I should go approaching like politicians and candidates, and what kind of questions I could ask that would facilitate like interesting and thought-provoking responses. I think in your opinion, and this could not just be for candidates too. Like really, this was the first time I actually went to an event and attempted interviewing people for anything. So it was very much a nervous thing for me. But in order to get good at something, you have to continually do it. You're going to be bad at the beginning, and you're going to find ways to develop your effective methods, and that's what I'm trying to do now. So I'm trying to get better at this so I can do it more consistently and with better results. So I could use any help on that. Any help is greatly appreciated. I think I'm going to end it there for the coverage on this event, and then I'm going to move into just kind of talking about the history of abortion, because personally I wanted to understand the topic further. So I did a lot of background research, and hold up, let me just end this.